Good morning. It's November 10th, 2010. This is Jason Moreland with another 28storms.com weather update. And here's a first look at the Atlantic Basin. Overall, things are fairly quiet. As you can see, there's hardly any cloud cover in the western Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico, or western Caribbean. The National Hurricane Center is still monitoring this area of disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity surrounding Puerto Rico this morning, and they give that area about a 10% chance of tropical cyclone formation within the next 48 hours. Although I must say conditions really aren't much or very favorable whatsoever. There's a strong trough of low pressure in the upper levels draped across the greater Antilles, and this can be better represented by the latest water vapor image. And as you can see, there's this very large trough stretched across the western Atlantic, and that trough is ushering in a lot of dry air and vertical wind shear. And although there is a weak 1007 millibar surface low pressure center near Puerto Rico, this area is getting sheared to pieces, and tropical development just isn't going to occur here. So this is a feature that we really don't have to worry about. I must say, however, though, that despite the fact that we're midway through the month of November, the final month of hurricane season, it's not too late to get tropical storm formation. In fact, if you look at sea surface temperatures across the Atlantic Basin, you notice that here's the 26-degree Celsius isotherm, and pretty much all areas south of this isotherm can support tropical development as long as upper level conditions become favorable. Furthermore, first of all, this is a look at global sea surface temperature anomalies, and you'll note this very strong cool tongue stretching from the South American coastline all the way toward the Central Pacific and even almost into the Western Pacific. Basically, what this tells you is that we're in a strong La Nina pattern right now, and La Ninas typically favor late season hurricane activity in the Atlantic Basin. So, even though it's been quiet the past week or so, we can still get tropical development. And this is just another look at upper level conditions across the Atlantic. Overall, there's a lot of wind shear in just about all areas of the basin with the exception of the southeast Caribbean, where there is in fact some upper level ridging being present right here. So let's go ahead and look at the Gfs Forecast model and see if it's sniffing out any potential for tropical development over the next 6 days. This is a sea level pressure chart. So as we progress forward, toward day 6, you start to notice that the model is developing a weak surface low pressure reflection south of Jamaica. So this may be an area to keep an eye on. As we go ahead and look at the upper level wind shear forecast, as I stop this for a moment, let's back this up a little bit. Alright, you notice that, okay, here we are over the Caribbean, and there is some upper level ridging, and this is the Eastern Caribbean right here. And as this evolves, you'll notice that the amount of upper level ridging begins to expand over the Eastern and Central Caribbean. And by day 6, we still have a fairly good ridge across much of the Caribbean Sea, with the upper level jet spreading further north into the Bahamas and eastern seaboard. Overall, this is a fairly favorable pattern, or at least marginal enough to watch this area for potential tropical development. And actually, the Canadian model is right on board with this scenario. In fact, the Canadian is actually more aggressive with the potential for tropical development. As you can see, by day 6, it actually has what would be considered a tropical cyclone, possibly a tropical storm or even minimal hurricane. Now, this is only one model solution, so let's not run away with things just yet. Alright, you may be wondering, what the heck is this? Well, basically what this tells you is this is the forecast for the Madden-Julian oscillation. Normally you see these lines here. If you're in octants 4, 5, 6, or 7, generally that's not favorable for tropical development in the Atlantic, although you still can get bursts of activity. And in fact, you will notice that the MJO has been fairly unfavorable across the Atlantic for much of the month of October, and yet we've still gotten several tropical systems. So even though the MJO has been unfavorable, we can still get tropical activity. And I should also note that despite the fact that conditions aren't all that favorable and they're not forecast to be very favorable MJO-wise, that the GFS model is showing an increase in upward vertical motion over the Caribbean Sea within the next week or so. So it looks like the Caribbean will be an area to watch. Taking a quick look at the Eastern and Central Pacific, you really can't see the Eastern Pacific on this map, but there's not a whole lot going on here. And the Western Pacific is virtually quiet as well. There's some disorganized tropical weather activity over the Bay of Bengal, but conditions really aren't favorable due to a lot of westerly wind shear, and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center really isn't that interested in that area. The Indian Ocean is also quiet, so there's really not much to report in the tropics at the moment, but again, we'll just have to keep an eye on the Caribbean down the road, as two of the models are showing the potential for tropical development. So quickly, let's go ahead and take a look at the United States weather, and this is the GFS. So currently, we have high pressure over the eastern United States. That's bringing a lot of calm and tranquil conditions, and in fact, the weather over the southeast has been downright near perfect. And it looks like that general pattern is going to persist over the next several days with relatively sunny skies. Although by Thursday and Friday, if you're living somewhere along Louisiana or Arkansas, you may begin to notice an increase in cloud cover, as we will start to get more of a southerly flow again out of the Gulf of Mexico. And in fact, some light shower and thunderstorm activity may break out over Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas by Thursday night into Friday morning. This is all associated with a weak cold front that's going to develop, and it's going to try to slide into the western half of the southeast United States on Friday and Saturday morning. But again, this is a fairly weak system. We're not expecting any severe weather or anything of the sort. But if you live along the southern Gulf Coast into the Tennessee and Ohio Valley, you may want to have an umbrella ready just in case you get a passing shower. But overall, the weekend is not looking like much of a washout. This is just, fairly a weak system. And beyond that point, there's really no chance